The cargo bay of Starshelter Station smelled like 1,000 different worlds mixed together. Marcus Chen walked through the lower market with his hands in his pockets, trying not to bump into the aliens moving around him. Some had 6 legs, some had wings, and some looked like walking plants. After 2 years of working on the station, he still wasn't used to it. He was heading back to his ship when he heard the sound. It was like rocks grinding together, mixed with something that made his chest hurt. Marcus stopped and looked around. Other people were walking past something in the shadows between 2 vendor stalls. They were stepping around it on purpose like it wasn't even there. Marcus moved closer and saw what they were avoiding. It was a dragon. Not a small one either. The creature was curled up on the cold metal floor, its silver scales looking dull and dirty. Dragons were supposed to be the most respected beings in the galaxy. Everyone knew that. They were wise and ancient and helped keep peace between different species. But this one looked like it was dying. The dragon's eyes opened when Marcus's shadow fell across it. They were gold but faded, like old coins. The creature didn't move. It just watched him with those tired eyes. Marcus looked around. A vendor nearby was selling food that smelled amazing. He walked over to the 4-armed alien running the stall. The alien's name was Torvik. Marcus had bought from him before. "Hey, Torvik, can I get 2 of those meat wraps?" Torvik's 4 hands moved fast, preparing the food. "You want extra sauce today, human Marcus?" "Yeah, sure." Marcus paid with his credit chip and took the warm packages. He walked back to the dragon and sat down on the floor next to it. The ground was cold and dirty, but he didn't care. He unwrapped one of the food packages and held it out. "You hungry?" The dragon stared at the food like it couldn't believe what it was seeing. Its long neck moved slowly, bringing its head closer. Marcus could see how thin it was under those scales. The dragon opened its mouth and took the food carefully, like it was afraid Marcus would change his mind. "Take your time," Marcus said. "I got another one if you want it." A voice spoke in his head, making him jump. It wasn't sound. It was like thoughts that weren't his own appearing in his mind. "Why are you helping me, human?" Marcus had heard that dragons could talk in people's minds, but he'd never experienced it before. It felt strange, but not bad. "Because you look hungry, that a problem?" "Others do not see me. They choose not to see me." Marcus watched as the dragon finished the first wrap. He handed over the second one. "Yeah, I noticed that. What did you do? Kill somebody?" "Worse." The dragon's mental voice was heavy with something Marcus couldn't quite understand. Shame, maybe, or sadness. "I broke my oath." "What oath?" The dragon ate in silence for a moment. When it finally answered, the words came slowly. I was, an arbiter. Dragons stand between species when they argue. We are neutral. We cannot take sides. This is our most sacred law. But you took a side? I revealed a truth that was meant to stay hidden. One species was killing millions of refugees in secret. The negotiation was a lie. I showed everyone the proof. The dragon's head lowered. I broke neutrality. Now I am void-named. No name, no family, no dragon will acknowledge I exist. Marcus sat with that information for a minute. Around them, the market continued. Aliens of every shape and size walked past. None of them looked at the dragon. It was like they'd trained themselves not to see it. "So you saved millions of people, and they punished you for it?" "I broke the law." "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." Marcus stood up and brushed off his pants. "Come on." The dragon's head lifted. "Where?" "My ship. You can't stay here on the floor." Marcus started walking, then realized the dragon wasn't following. He turned back. "You coming or not?" "You do not understand, human. To help me is to mark yourself. Others will turn away from you as they do from me." Marcus shrugged. "Let them. I'm not great at making friends anyway." The dragon stood slowly. It was huge when it stretched out, maybe 3 times Marcus's height. Its wings were folded tight against its back. People in the market started moving away from them, creating a circle of empty space. My name's Marcus, by the way. Marcus Chen. I have no name to give you. That's okay. I'll think of something. Marcus led the way through the market. He could feel people staring now, but not at the dragon. At him. Word was going to spread fast. They made it to the docking bay where Marcus's ship waited. It wasn't much to look at. The Wandering Star was a small cargo hauler, old and patched in a dozen places, but it was his, paid for with 10 years of saving every credit. Inside, the dragon had to fold itself carefully to fit. Marcus showed it to the cargo hold, which was mostly empty since he was between jobs. You can stay here. There's a bathroom through that door, and I'll bring you more food later. The dragon settled onto the floor, looking around the space like it couldn't quite believe this was real. Why are you doing this, Marcus Chen? Because it's the right thing to do. Marcus headed for the door, then stopped. Get some rest. You look like you need it. He went to the cockpit and pulled up his communication terminal. After thinking for a minute, he started typing. The form he needed took some searching to find. Humans were new to the galactic community, so their laws were different from everyone else's. There were options other species didn't have. He found what he was looking for under Family Status Registration, the section on adoption and dependence. Marcus filled in his information, then paused at the dependent's name field. The dragon had said it had no name. Marcus thought about it and typed in Vakroth. It sounded right somehow. When he submitted the form, a confirmation message appeared, then another message, and another. Within 5 minutes, his terminal was exploding with notifications. The form had gone to the station administrator's office, which meant it was now public record, which meant everyone on the station could see it. Marcus had just officially adopted a dragon. His communication panel lit up with an incoming call. He answered it, and Administrator Quilnara's insect-like face appeared on the screen. Her compound eyes looked somehow angry. Human Marcus Chen, what have you done? Filed some paperwork. That a problem? You cannot adopt a void-named dragon. This is not done. This is not possible. I'm human. We do impossible things all the time. Marcus leaned back in his chair. The form went through, so it must be legal. Quilnara's mandibles clicked together in what might have been frustration. Legal, yes. Wise? No. You have made yourself an enemy of many today. Add them to the list, Marcus said. Is there anything else, Administrator? The call ended. Marcus sat in his cockpit, looking out at the stars beyond the station. He thought about going back to check on Vakroth, but decided to let the dragon rest. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. He could already tell. In the cargo hold, Vakroth lay in the darkness. For the first time in 3 years, the crushing weight of loneliness felt just a little bit lighter. The dragon didn't understand this human. But maybe, just maybe, that was okay. Outside the ship, the galaxy was already starting to talk. 3 days passed on Starshelter Station, and Marcus learned what it meant to be invisible. Vendors who had always greeted him now looked through him like he was made of glass. His regular suppliers stopped answering his calls. Even Torvik, who had always been friendly, turned his back when Marcus approached his stall. The only person who still talked to him was Administrator Quilnara, and that was only because it was her job to maintain order on the station. Marcus sat in his ship's small kitchen area, eating breakfast and reading messages on his tablet. 3 more cargo contracts had been canceled overnight. That made 7 total. At this rate, he wouldn't be able to afford fuel in 2 weeks. Vakroth entered the room slowly. The dragon had to duck his head to fit through the doorway. Over the past few days, he'd started to look healthier. His scales were cleaner, his eyes brighter. Marcus had been feeding him regularly, and it showed. You received more cancellations, Vakroth said. His mental voice had become easier to hear. Marcus was getting used to it. Yeah, word travels fast, I guess. Marcus took a bite of his food. Don't worry about it. I'll find work. You are suffering because of me. You should reverse the adoption. Tell them you made a mistake. Marcus looked up at the dragon. Did I make a mistake? Vakroth was quiet for a long moment. No, but I am not worth the price you're paying. I'll decide what you're worth, thanks. Marcus went back to his tablet. Besides, I've been thinking. Those people you saved, the refugees, They're still alive because of you, right? Yes. Millions of them scattered across 12 worlds. Then you did the right thing. I don't care what Dragon Law says about it. Marcus stood and poured himself more coffee. You want to tell me the whole story? You don't have to, but I'm curious. Vakroth settled onto the floor, his long tail curling around himself. It was 4 years ago. The Kelthran government and the Murayan Republic were negotiating rights to the outer fringe systems. 3 habitable worlds rich in resources. I was assigned as arbiter along with 2 other dragons. Okay, sounds normal so far. The negotiations went on for months. Both sides made demands. Both sides refused to compromise. But something felt wrong. I could sense it. Vakroth's eyes grew distant, remembering. Dragons can read emotions, feelings beneath the surface. The Kelthran delegation was hiding something. Fear and guilt. Marcus sat down, listening. I began investigating in secret. This was already a violation of my oath. An arbiter must remain distant and neutral. But I could not ignore what I felt. The dragon's mental voice grew heavy. What I found was worse than I imagined. The 3 worlds were not empty. Refugee populations from other conflicts had settled there over decades. Millions of beings without formal government protection. Let me guess, the Kelthran were getting rid of them. Systematically, quietly, they would take control of the worlds, and no refugees would remain to complicate things. The Murayans did not know. It was not part of the negotiation. It was simply happening in the background. Vakroth's claws scraped against the floor. I had evidence, records, witness testimony, but to reveal it would end the negotiation and break my oath of neutrality. So what did you do? I struggled with the choice for 3 days. My fellow arbiters counseled me to remain silent. They said the refugees were not part of our mandate. They said intervening would damage the reputation of all dragons, that future negotiations might fail if species did not trust our neutrality. Vakroth's head lowered. On the 4th day, I made my choice. I revealed everything in open session. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. And they punished you for it. The negotiation collapsed. The Kelthran government denied everything, but the evidence was clear. The Galactic Council issued sanctions, but they were light. Political pressure ensured the Kelthran leaders faced no real consequences. And I was declared void-named for breaking my sacred oath. That's insane. You're a hero. I am a lawbreaker. In Dragon Society, law is everything. Without law, without our absolute neutrality, we have no purpose. Other species trust dragons because we never take sides. Never. What I did damaged that trust. Marcus stood up and started pacing. His small kitchen felt even smaller suddenly. Let me get this straight. You had to choose between following a rule and letting millions of people die. You chose to save them. And somehow you're the bad guy in this story? The law exists for a reason, Marcus. If dragons can break neutrality when we feel it is right, then we are no longer neutral. We become just another faction with opinions and biases. Good. Maybe you should be. Marcus stopped pacing and looked at the dragon. I'm sorry, but your people's rules are stupid. You can't be neutral about genocide. Some things are just wrong, and if your law says you have to let them happen, then your law is broken. Vakroth stared at him. This is the human way of thinking? Yeah, it is. Marcus sat back down. Look, I get that you guys have been doing things a certain way for thousands of years. But from where I'm sitting, you're the only dragon who actually did the right thing. The others chose their reputation over people's lives. They sat in silence for a while. Marcus finished his coffee, and Vakroth seemed to be processing what he'd said. Finally, Vakroth spoke again. Do you know why I told you this story? Because I asked? Because you are the first being in 3 years who treated me as if I have value. Even the refugees I saved turn away from me now. They know I am void-named. They know I am marked. The dragon's golden eyes met Marcus's. You are either very brave or very foolish, human. Probably both, Marcus admitted. But I meant what I said. You're family now. Humans don't abandon family. The ship's communication panel started beeping. Marcus went to the cockpit to check it. His face went pale when he saw the message. What is it? Vakroth asked, following him. The station administrator wants to see both of us. Right now. She says it's urgent. They made their way through the station together. Marcus noticed that the usual crowds parted around them, creating empty space wherever they walked. Some aliens whispered. Others just stared. A few made gestures that were probably rude in their cultures, Administrator Quilnara's office was in the central hub of the station. Her assistant, a nervous-looking amphibian creature, showed them in immediately. The administrator stood behind her desk, her insect body tense. Human Marcus. Vakroth the Void named. She gestured with two of her limbs. We have a problem. What kind of problem? Marcus asked. 4 elder dragons arrived on the station 1 hour ago. They are demanding an audience with you both. They want you to dissolve the adoption immediately. Quilnara's compound eyes fixed on Marcus. These are not ordinary dragons. They are members of the High Council. They have authority that extends across the entire galactic community. Marcus felt Vakroth tense beside him. We don't have to see them if we don't want to, right? Technically, no. But refusing an audience with the High Council would have consequences. For you, for this station, possibly for all human diplomatic relations. They're going to try to take Vakroth. They are going to demand you release him. They consider your adoption an insult to dragon law and custom. Quilnara leaned forward. I must be honest with you, Marcus Chen. I do not know if I can protect you from this. The dragons have influence I cannot match. Marcus looked at Vakroth. The dragon was trying to hide it, but Marcus could see the fear in his eyes. This was what Vakroth had been afraid of all along. That Marcus would give up when the pressure got too high. Tell them we'll see them, Marcus said. But we're not dissolving anything. Vakroth stays with me. Quilnara's mandibles clicked. You understand what you are risking? Yeah, I do. Marcus put a hand on Vakroth's scaled forearm. But some things are worth the risk. The administrator sighed in a way that sounded the same in any species. The meeting is scheduled for tomorrow morning. I suggest you prepare yourselves. The High Council does not accept defiance lightly. As they left the office, Marcus could feel his heart pounding. He'd stood up to bullies before, but never ones that could influence entire governments. Still, when he looked at Vakroth walking beside him, head held a little higher than before, he knew he'd made the right choice. Whatever happened tomorrow, they would face it together. The meeting room was designed for beings much larger than humans. Marcus felt small standing in the center of it, but he kept his back straight and his chin up. Vakroth stood beside him, completely still except for the slight movement of his breathing. The 4 elder dragons entered together, and the room suddenly felt even smaller. These dragons were massive, their scales ranging from deep emerald to midnight blue. They wore ceremonial bands around their necks and forelimbs, marking their status. When they looked at Marcus, their ancient eyes held something between curiosity and contempt. They completely ignored Vakroth, as if he wasn't there at all. The largest dragon, whose scales were the color of old bronze, spoke first. His mental voice was like thunder. Human Marcus Chen, I am Corveth, speaker for the High Council. You have created a situation that cannot continue. Nice to meet you too, Marcus said. He knew he should probably be more polite, but something about their attitude made his stubborn side come out. You will dissolve this adoption. The void named cannot be claimed as family. This is not your custom to break. Actually, it is my custom. Human custom. And the adoption is legal under human law, which the Galactic Council recognized when you let us join. Another dragon, her scales a deep blue, stepped forward. Her mental voice was cold. You do not understand the gravity of what the void named has done. He betrayed everything dragons stand for. To claim him as family is to insult all of dragonkind. He saved millions of lives, Marcus said. Where I come from, we call that being a hero. He broke his sacred oath. The third dragon's mental voice cracked like ice breaking. Oaths are the foundation of civilization. Without them, there is only chaos. The void named chose his own judgment over the law. This cannot be celebrated. Marcus took a breath, trying to keep his anger under control. Let me ask you something. If you'd been there, what would you have done? Would you have stayed quiet while millions of people died? Yes, Corveth said simply. Because that is what the law demands. Neutrality means neutrality, even when it is difficult. Especially when it is difficult. Then your law is wrong. The room went very quiet. Even Administrator Quilnara, who was observing from the side, made a small sound of alarm. Corveth's eyes narrowed. You dare to judge dragon law? You, whose species has been in the stars for barely a generation? We have maintained peace for thousands of years through our laws. Peace for who? Marcus shot back. Not for the refugees who were being murdered. They didn't get any peace. They got death squads and mass graves. The fourth dragon, who had been silent until now, spoke. Her scales were silver white, and her voice was gentler than the others. The human makes a point, Corveth. Perhaps we should explain the full context. There is no context that justifies what the Void-Named did, Sheris. But Sheris continued. After the Void-Named revealed his evidence, the Kelthran government collapsed. The political chaos led to economic instability across 6 systems. Trade agreements failed. 2 smaller species lost their primary food sources. Thousands died in the resulting riots and shortages. Marcus felt his stomach drop. I didn't know that. This is why we have laws, Corveth said. Actions have consequences. The Void-Named saw only the immediate problem. We see the larger picture. Sometimes allowing a small injustice prevents a larger catastrophe. Vakroth finally spoke, his mental voice quiet but clear. I have lived with the knowledge of those deaths every day. I know what my actions caused. But I would make the same choice again. The Elder Dragons turned to look at him. It was the first time they'd acknowledged his presence. You remain unrepentant, Corveth said. This is why you are Void-Named. Not just for breaking the law, but for refusing to accept that you were wrong. Because I wasn't wrong, Vakroth said, and Marcus heard strength in his voice that hadn't been there before. The Kelthran would have completed their genocide. Millions more would have died, and it would have been hidden forever. Yes, my revelation caused chaos. But it also exposed a system that allowed such things to happen in the first place. Enough! Corveth's mental voice boomed through the room. Human, you have heard our position. Release the Void-Named, and we will speak no more of this matter. Refuse, and you will face consequences. What kind of consequences? Humans rely on galactic trade routes, do they not? You need fuel, supplies, parts for your ships. We have significant influence over who trades with whom. Corveth's eyes were hard. We can make things very difficult for your species. Marcus felt fear settle in his gut. This wasn't just about him anymore. If he refused, other humans might suffer. He looked at Vakroth, who was carefully not looking at him. The dragon's posture said everything. Vakroth expected Marcus to give up. Everyone always did. That's what made Marcus's decision easy. No, he said. Quilnara made another alarmed sound. The elder dragon stared at him. No? Corveth repeated, you heard me. Vakroth stays with me. You can threaten all you want, but I'm not abandoning family. That's not how humans work. You would risk your entire species' position in the galactic community for one Void-Named dragon? If that's what it takes, yeah. Marcus crossed his arms. But I don't think it'll come to that. See, I've got something you don't. What could you possibly have that concerns us? Evidence. Vakroth kept copies of everything. The genocide records, the cover-up documents, the communications showing who knew what and when. And I've been doing some research the past few days. Turns out the Kelthran weren't the only ones doing terrible things. There are dozens of buried incidents across the galaxy, crimes that were covered up to maintain stability. Sheris's eyes widened slightly. You would not dare release such information. Watch me. Marcus pulled out his datapad. I've already sent copies to every human colony and ship. We're not part of your system yet. We don't have any reason to keep your secrets. And humans, we love a good scandal. This stuff is going to spread faster than you can stop it. This is blackmail, Corveth growled. No, this is the truth. You can't threaten humans with isolation when we're already on the outside. We've got nothing to lose and everything to gain by exposing how this system really works. The 4 elder dragons looked at each other. For the first time, Marcus saw uncertainty in their ancient eyes. You would destabilize the entire galactic order, Corveth said finally. You do not understand what you are doing. Maybe not. But I understand that Vakroth did the right thing, and I'm not going to let you punish him for it anymore. Marcus stepped forward. Here's my offer. Leave us alone. Stop trying to break up the adoption. And maybe, just maybe, I'll think about keeping this information quiet. You cannot negotiate with us, human. We are the High Council. Then I guess this conversation is over. Marcus turned to leave, gesturing for Vakroth to follow. Wait, Sheris said. The silver-white dragon looked at her companions. Perhaps we have been too rigid in our thinking. The human species is young. They see things differently. Maybe there is value in that perspective. Sheris, you cannot be serious, Corveth said. I am completely serious. Look at the Void-Named. He is not dying anymore. He stands with pride. This human has given him something we could not, a reason to continue. Sheris turned her gaze to Marcus. You will not release the information? Not if you leave us alone. And if other Void-Named dragons hear of this? If they seek out humans for similar adoptions? Marcus shrugged. Then we'll deal with that when it happens. Humans are good at making room for people who need it. The elder dragons spoke among themselves in a way Marcus couldn't hear. It went on for several minutes. Finally, Corveth turned back to them. We will agree to your terms, human. But know this, you have made enemies today. Not all dragons will accept this situation, and the Kelthran government will not be pleased when they learn you have evidence of their crimes. I'll worry about that when I need to, Marcus said. The elder dragons left without another word. Only Sheris paused at the door, looking back at Vakroth. Perhaps there is hope for you yet, Void named. But do not expect the rest of dragonkind to accept this easily. When they were gone, Quilnara approached Marcus. That was either the bravest or most foolish thing I have ever witnessed. I'm hearing that a lot lately. Marcus felt his hands shaking now that the adrenaline was wearing off. Am I in trouble? Probably. The Kelthran will not take kindly to your threats. The administrator's eyes showed worry. I will increase security around your ship, but I cannot protect you from everything, Marcus Chen. As they walked back through the station, Marcus noticed something different. People were still staring, but now there was something else in their expressions. Not just disgust or fear. Some looked curious. Others looked thoughtful. Word of the confrontation was already spreading. Back on the ship, Vakroth settled into the cargo hold and looked at Marcus for a long moment. You should not have done that. You made yourself a target. Yeah, well. Marcus grinned despite his nervousness. Like I said, some things are worth the risk. You hungry? I'll make us some dinner. For the first time since they'd met, Marcus heard something like laughter in Vakroth's mental voice. It was a good sound. Outside the ship, the galaxy continued to turn. But inside, two beings from very different worlds had found something rare and precious. They had found family. Marcus woke up to the sound of alarms. Red emergency lights flashed in his quarters, and the ship's computer was announcing a hull breach warning. He rolled out of bed, pulled on his clothes, and ran toward the cargo hold where Vakroth slept. The dragon was already awake, pressed against the far wall. There was a hole in the ship's outer hull, about the size of Marcus's fist. Atmosphere was venting into space. Emergency foam was already sealing it, but that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was the small explosive device that had failed to fully detonate. It sat on the floor, still sparking. Get down! Marcus grabbed Vakroth and pulled him toward the door. They made it into the corridor just as the device exploded. The blast wasn't huge, but it was enough to blow out the emergency foam and create a bigger hole. Alarms got louder. Station security arrived within minutes. They sealed the breach and searched the ship while Marcus and Vakroth waited in the docking bay. Administrator Quilnara came personally to check on them. Are you injured? She asked, looking them both over with her compound eyes. We're fine. What the hell was that? Marcus was still shaking from adrenaline. An assassination attempt. A crude one, but an attempt nonetheless. Quilnara's mandibles clicked in anger. We found evidence linking the device to Kelthran operatives. They have been on the station for 3 days, registered as merchants. Vakroth's mental voice was dark. They want revenge. For what I did 4 years ago. More likely, they want to silence you permanently before you can release more evidence. Quilnara turned to Marcus. I am sorry, but I must ask. Do you actually have the evidence you claimed, or was it a bluff? Marcus had been afraid someone would ask that. I have some of it. Enough to cause problems. But not everything. Vakroth's original data was confiscated when he was declared void-named. Then we need to recover it, a new voice said. Marcus turned to see a figure approaching from the shadows of the docking bay. It was another insectoid alien, smaller than Quilnara, with darker coloring. Marcus Chen, Vakroth, this is my cousin Zilith. They work in the station's data archives. Quilnara gestured to the newcomer. Tell them what you told me. Zilith's voice was quiet but urgent. I have been watching the galactic data networks for years, keeping records of things that others try to erase. When I heard about what happened with the High Council, I reached out to Quilnara. I think I can help you. Help us how? Marcus asked. There are others like me across the galaxy. Archivists, data keepers, people who believe information should not be destroyed just because it is inconvenient. We have been collecting evidence of covered-up crimes for decades. Zilith pulled out a small data crystal. This contains records of 17 major incidents where the galactic community chose stability over justice. But it is not enough by itself. We need Vakroth's original evidence to make the full case. Vakroth's eyes widened. The High Council took my data. It is sealed in the dragon archives on their homeworld. Impossible to access. Nothing is impossible if you have the right help, Zelith said. I know people. Skilled people. Some are criminals by galactic law, but they are good at what they do. Marcus looked at Quilnara. You're okay with this? With us basically planning a heist? The administrator was quiet for a moment. No, I am not okay with it. But I am tired of watching injustice be swept under the floor in the name of peace. If you can expose the truth, then I will look the other way while you plan. Over the next week, Marcus's ship became the headquarters for something that shouldn't exist. A crew of misfits gathered, each bringing their own skills and their own reasons for wanting to help. There was Xylith, the archivist, who understood data systems better than anyone. There was Crix, a small reptilian alien who had been a thief before going straight. There was Jenna Park, another human who ran a small information brokerage on the station. And there was Reth, a massive Ursine alien who had lost his family to one of the covered-up incidents Zilith had documented. They planned carefully. The Dragon archives were on Droth Prime, the Dragon homeworld. Security was supposedly impossible to breach, but they had advantages the Dragons hadn't planned for. Humans were new to the galactic community, which meant their technology worked differently, and Vakroth knew the layout of the archives from his time before being void-named. There will be other void-named dragons, Vakroth said during one planning session. I know of at least 12 who were exiled in the last century. They are scattered across the galaxy, hiding in shame. If we succeed, it will give them hope. That's a nice thought, Crick said, examining a schematic of the archive building. But first we need to actually succeed. The dragons have quantum encryption on their data vaults. Even if we get inside, we might not be able to access anything. I can help with that, Jenna said. Human encryption breakers work on different principles. We approach problems sideways instead of head-on. Give me access to the system and I'll get us in. They spent 2 more weeks preparing. Marcus used his last remaining credits to upgrade his ship's engines. They would need speed to escape if things went wrong. Vakroth trained with Crix, learning how to move silently despite his size. Zilith coordinated with other archivists across the galaxy, setting up a network to spread the information the moment they had it. The night before they left, Marcus couldn't sleep. He found Vakroth in the cargo hold staring out the viewport at the stars. You worried? Marcus asked. Terrified, Vakroth admitted. If we fail, I will be killed. You will be imprisoned. Everyone helping us will suffer. Then we won't fail. Marcus sat down next to the dragon. You know, when I first saw you in that market, I didn't think any of this would happen. I just thought you looked hungry. One small act of kindness leading to revolution. Vakroth's mental voice held something like amusement. Very human. Is that a bad thing? No. I think it might be exactly what the galaxy needs. They left Starshelter Station quietly, registering a flight plan for a mining colony 3 systems away. Once they cleared station space, they changed course for Droth Prime. The journey took 4 days. They spent the time reviewing the plan over and over until everyone knew their role. Droth Prime was beautiful. A world of silver mountains and vast forest orbited by 3 moons. Dragon architecture blended with the landscape, buildings that looked like they had grown from the stone itself. The archives were built into a mountain, accessible only through a single entrance. Security ships are scanning us, Jenna reported from the sensors. They're not suspicious yet. Just routine checks. Marcus had registered their ship under a false transponder code that Crix had provided. As far as the dragons knew, they were a simple cargo vessel delivering supplies. They had forged documents and everything. They were cleared to land at a commercial port near the base of the archive mountain. From there, the plan was simple in theory and complex in practice. Vakroth would use his knowledge of dragon telepathy to mask their presence. Crix would bypass physical security. Jenna would crack the data systems. And Marcus, Reth, and Zilith would provide backup and extraction. What they hadn't counted on was finding help inside. As they approached the archive entrance, pretending to be lost merchants, a young dragon emerged from the building. Its scales were pale green, and when it saw Vakroth, it froze. You are void-named, the young dragon said, its mental voice uncertain. Yes, Vakroth replied. Please do not alert the guards. The young dragon looked around nervously, then stepped closer. I know who you are. You are the one who saved the refugees. The one who told the truth. You should stay away from me. Association with void-named brings shame. I do not care about shame anymore. The young dragon's eyes were fierce. My clutchmate was declared void named 2 years ago for refusing to arbitrate a negotiation she believed was unjust. She ended her own life rather than live with the isolation. I have been waiting for someone to challenge the system. When I heard about you and the human, I hoped you would come. Marcus stepped forward. Can you help us? Yes, my name is Thys. I work in the archive cataloging system. I can get you inside. Thys looked at Vakroth. There are others like me, young dragons who question the old ways. We have been watching what happens on Starshelter Station. You are giving us courage to ask questions. What followed was the most tense 3 hours of Marcus's life. Thys led them through service corridors that staff used but were beneath the notice of elder dragons. They reached the data vault level without being seen. Jenna got to work on the encryption while Crix kept watch. Reth and Zelith prepared data storage devices. We will have minutes once the security systems detect the breach, Thys warned. The elders will come quickly. Then we better be fast, Jenna muttered, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. Come on. Got it, the vault opened. Inside were crystalline data storage units, thousands of them. Vakroth moved to a specific section, his claws precise despite his size. He pulled out 3 crystals. This is everything. My original evidence, plus data I gathered that I never got to reveal. Download it all, Marcus ordered. Zelith began copying the data at maximum speed. Alarms started blaring. They know we are here. Thys's mental voice was panicked. 10 more seconds, Zelith said calmly. 9, 8. Dragons began pouring into the corridor outside. Marcus could hear their roars of anger. Reth moved to block the door, his massive frame filling the opening. Done. Zelith, the data release happened at exactly midnight Galactic Standard Time. Zelith had coordinated with archivists across 100 worlds. The information appeared simultaneously on every major network, impossible to contain or suppress. By morning, the galaxy was in chaos. Marcus watched the news feeds from his ship, which was currently hiding in an asteroid field 3 systems away from anywhere important. Every channel showed the same thing. Governments scrambling to respond, populations demanding answers, and the truth spreading faster than anyone could stop it. The Kelthran genocide was front and center, but it wasn't alone. The data showed decades of buried atrocities. Species displaced without record. Environmental disasters covered up. Even a case where a disease outbreak had been deliberately hidden to protect trade routes, resulting in millions of deaths. And through all of it, one thing was clear. The Dragon Arbiters had known. Not all of them, maybe, but enough. They had chosen stability over justice again and again. The High Council is holding an emergency session, Jenna reported, watching a live feed. They're saying the data is fabricated, that humans and criminals are trying to destabilize the galactic order. People won't believe that for long, Zelith said quietly. The data is too detailed, too verifiable. Independent investigators are already confirming parts of it. Vakroth was silent, watching the screens with an expression Marcus couldn't quite read. Finally, the dragon spoke. This will break Dragon Society. Everything we have built for thousands of years. Maybe it needs to break, Reth said. The big alien had stayed with them after the escape, unwilling to return to a galaxy that had ignored his family's deaths. Maybe something better can be built from the pieces. Over the next few days, the situation escalated. 3 galactic governments fell as populations rose up demanding accountability. The dragon homeworld was in crisis as young dragons openly challenged the High Council. Thys sent them encrypted messages, reporting that hundreds of dragons were questioning whether void-named status should even exist. But not everyone welcomed the truth. The Kelthran government, facing war crimes charges, announced that they were sending a military fleet to capture Marcus and Vakroth. Several other species, fearing exposure of their own secrets, joined them. The bounty on their heads grew to astronomical levels. We need to find a safe harbor, Marcus said during a strategy meeting in the ship's common area. Somewhere they can't reach us. There is nowhere in the galaxy they cannot reach, Crix pointed out. We are too high profile now. Everyone knows our faces. Then maybe we need to be even more public, Jenna suggested. Can't assassinate us if the whole galaxy is watching. That gave Marcus an idea. The Galactic Concord. It's happening in 2 weeks on Unity Station. Every member species will be there. If we show up, tell our story in front of everyone. They will arrest us the moment we arrive, Vakroth said. Maybe. But we'll have a chance to speak first. And Unity Station is neutral territory. They can't just execute us without a trial. Marcus looked around at his crew. I know it's risky. If anyone wants out, I understand. No one moved. Reth actually smiled, showing his sharp teeth. I did not come this far to hide. We speak truth or we die trying. The journey to Unity Station took a week. They received hundreds of messages during that time. Some were death threats, but others were different. Beings from across the galaxy, thanking them for revealing the truth. Void-named dragons asking for help. Activists who wanted to join their cause. One message came from Administrator Quilnara. She had been removed from her position for allowing them to operate on Starshelter Station, but she didn't seem upset. You have started something that cannot be stopped, her message said. Whatever happens next, know that you gave many of us hope. Unity Station was enormous, an artificial world built to house the Galactic Conquered. When they arrived, there were already protests happening. Crowds demanding justice, other crowds defending the old order. Security was tight, but Marcus had sent ahead a request to address the Conquered, citing human diplomatic protocols. To everyone's surprise, the request was granted. Maybe they were curious. Maybe they thought letting Marcus speak would calm things down. Either way, they had their chance. The Conquered Hall was designed to hold representatives from every species in the galaxy. Thousands of beings filled the chamber, some in seats, some floating in environmental bubbles, some connected remotely through holographic projection. Marcus had never felt so small. He walked to the central platform with Vakroth beside him. Cameras from 100 worlds focused on them. This was it. Their one chance to speak before they were silenced. Marcus cleared his throat. The translator systems would carry his words to every species present. My name is Marcus Chen. I'm human, which means I'm new to all this. We've only been in space for a couple of generations. We don't know all your rules and customs. Maybe that's why I did something everyone said was impossible. I adopted this dragon. He gestured to Vakroth. His name is Vakroth. He was declared void-named, which means his own people decided he didn't exist anymore. Want to know what he did to deserve that? He stopped a genocide. He revealed the truth about millions of people being murdered. And for that he was punished. Murmurs filled the hall. Marcus kept going. When I found out why Vakroth was being shunned, I couldn't understand it. Where I come from, people who tell the truth are heroes, not criminals. People who save lives are celebrated, not exiled. But I'm learning that things work differently out here. Out here, truth is dangerous. Justice is inconvenient, and it's easier to punish the people who speak up than to fix the problems they expose. A representative from one of the elder species stood up. You are a child speaking of things you do not understand, human. We have maintained galactic peace for millennia. Your naive moral absolutism threatens everything we have built. Your peace was built on lies, Marcus shot back. On covered-up genocides and buried crimes. You call it stability, but it's just silence, and that silence killed millions. And your truth has caused chaos. Governments have fallen. Trade routes are disrupted. People are dying in riots and unrest. The representative's voice was angry. Was your precious truth worth that? Marcus felt his confidence waver, but then Vakroth stepped forward. The dragon's mental voice projected to everyone in the chamber. I have asked myself that question every day for 4 years. Every death that resulted from my revelation weighs on me. But I have come to understand something. The chaos and deaths did not come from truth. They came from the injustice that truth revealed. We did not create the problem. We only exposed it. Another voice joined in. It was Sheris, the silver-white elder dragon from the High Council. She had entered the chamber quietly during Marcus's speech. I have struggled with this as well. For weeks I have been investigating the released data. It is real, all of it. And I must confess before this Conquered that I knew about some of these incidents. We all did. We chose to remain silent because we believed it served the greater good. The chamber erupted in noise. Dragons admitting fault was unheard of. Sheris continued, her mental voice cutting through the chaos. But I was wrong. We were wrong. In our desire to maintain peace, we became accomplices to atrocity. The human is right to call us out. His species may be young, but they see clearly what we have become blind to. That true peace cannot exist without justice. This is treason. Corveth, the bronze dragon, had also entered. Sheris, you betray your own kind. No, I finally honor them. Dragons were meant to be arbiters of justice, not enforcers of silence. Sheris turned to address the full Conquered. I propose we dissolve the practice of void naming. More than that, I propose we establish a truth and reconciliation process. Let every species come forward with their grievances. Let us face what we have done and let us build something better. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some species walked out in protest. Others gave impassioned speeches supporting change. The Kelthran delegation tried to call for Marcus and Vakroth's arrest, but they were shouted down by representatives whose own people had suffered from covered-up crimes. In the end, no single decision was reached. The conquered was too divided, but something had changed. The conversation had shifted. Truth was no longer something to be feared and buried. It was now something to be debated and considered. As Marcus and Vakroth left the chamber, they were surrounded by security forces. For a moment, Marcus thought they were being arrested, but then the guard captain, a stout alien with blue skin, spoke. "We've been ordered to provide protection. There are multiple assassination contracts on your heads. The conquered decided you should live long enough to see what changes come from your actions." They were given quarters on Unity Station and told to remain there while the various governments figured out what to do with them. Days turned into weeks. The crew stayed together, watching as the galaxy slowly transformed. The Dragon High Council split into two factions. The traditionalists still insisted that the old ways were correct, but a new council formed, led by Sharis and joined by dozens of younger dragons and former Void named. They called themselves the Truth Seekers, and they arg.